One of the many great things about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's win over Joe Crowley on Tuesday isn't just the fact that she is very likely to be elected to Congress in November, but also that there is now mainstream exposure of progressive ideas, of democratic socialism. Now, I'm going to show you an example of that. So I have 3 clips here from The View. Now, I'm not sure if I've ever talked about The View on my channel, and if I have, it was likely in a negative context, but these are positive clips. Now, the first clip here is actually sort of a dive into how other Democrats in New York feared Ocasio-Cortez.
When you did win, a lot of people said this 28-year-old bartender who isn't qualified. You went to Boston University, you studied economics and international relations, you worked for Ted Kennedy, you worked for Bernie Sanders, you've been a political activist, all while also bartending and helping your mother because your father passed away.
Yeah, that's
so
exactly right.
People should know that.
Your win sent shockwaves basically through the Democratic Party. They did not expect it.
No.
They spent how much money did they spend on Crowley? A lot.
I mean, it was definitely well over $3 million.
And what did you spend?
You know, for the lion's share of the race, the very end, there was a lot more small dollar donations coming in. But we had about 300,000 up until like those very end days, and then things really started surging.
Okay, so there's quite a discrepancy in the amount of money that the Democratic Party put behind him.
Yeah.
So do you think that that shows the Democratic Party at the moment does not get it? They don't understand to back people like you?
Yeah, well, I think what we're dealing with right now is the dynamics of power. Once someone has power, it is so hard to challenge it, even if you think that that other person was right. So I can't tell you how many times I would talk to people. People were afraid to even take pictures with me in public because of what that could mean.
Wow.
And
what kind of
candidates?
like you know, local city council members and state assembly
The party
members, 'cause
apparatus,
there was a
right?
machine, there was a party apparatus, and you can't challenge the boss because then my job's going to be at risk.
Wow.
And so there were so many people behind closed doors that said, I want to support you, I believe you are what's best, but I can't because my job will be at risk. And there's a lot of that going on.
So right off the bat, we are discussing ideas that really have not been discussed on mainstream news or mainstream talk shows like The View. So first I want to bring up, so her background was discussed. The fact that Ocasio-Cortez, her father died, that she comes from a working class family, and her education. These things, a lot of progressives, especially, you know, on Twitter, online, they think this isn't important. They think it's all about the policy and, you know, what your background is, who you are, it doesn't matter at all. No, these things do matter. These experiences do matter. The experiences you have inform how you act as a politician. And not only that, they're also relatable. They speak to people. So, you know, if you are a billionaire and you're talking about democratic socialism or progressive policies, it's going to be a lot tougher to trust what you're saying because you don't necessarily have the background, have the experience of actually being poor, of actually going through real economic struggle. But if you're somebody like Ocasio-Cortez who has gone through that, the message comes out authentic. It comes out as real, and that speaks directly to voters. Now, moving on here, she also, Joy brought up how the Democratic Party might not get it because they're supporting people like Joe Crowley over Ocasio-Cortez. This is a funny a funny comment because, I mean, I like Joy Behar. She's maybe one of the better people on this panel here, but even she doesn't understand the Democratic Party apparatus, how this machine works. So the party would never in a million years support somebody like Ocasio-Cortez in any race, let alone a race against the number 4 Democrat in Congress. So this shows you just how out of touch people like Joy are, and somebody like Ocasio-Cortez comes along and is able to inform them on how this system works, how the Democratic Party has this machine, how Democratic Party politicians were afraid of taking pictures with her because they were afraid of their boss, because they're afraid of the Democratic Party machine that may force them to then lose their job because they are supporting the enemy. But Ocasio-Cortez in her ability to help expose that to a mainstream audience, is now informing people that were otherwise not informed on this. Now, let me get to the next clip here where Ocasio-Cortez breaks down democratic socialism.
Well, we've been talking about on the show, I believe there's a fracture in the Democratic Party, and you consider yourself a Democratic Socialist like Bernie Sanders, correct? Nancy Pelosi was asked about you, and she didn't exactly give you a ringing endorsement. I mean, and you didn't exactly give her a ringing endorsement. Do you think that the future of the Democratic Party is socialism?
Well, first of all, there's a huge difference between socialism and democratic socialism. Democratic socialism, and really what that boils down to me, is the basic belief that I believe that in a moral and wealthy America, in a moral and modern America, no person should be too poor to live in this country. That is what I believe. And that's what I believe. And so I can understand that there may be some divisions. You know, I don't think people wake up in the morning and say, I'm a capitalist, you know? And so it's funny that when I win, this is the word that's always so thrown around.
I think Donald Trump wakes up with that exact word.
Yeah, I mean, he may.
But do you think the future of the party is more Bernie than Nancy?
I think that, I think that for young people, I think the future, here's what I think. I think the future of the party is working class. And I think that what I represent, and perhaps, Senator Sanders, also Senator Warren, there's a lot of working class champions in the Democratic Party. And I do think that that's the future.
I love this. A mainstream audience is now being exposed to democratic socialism. This would not be a topic on The View or anywhere on mainstream news if it wasn't for Ocasio-Cortez's big win over Joe Crowley. So she discusses here. So first, the focus on words. There is really this focus on, socialism. Oh, what a scary socialism. The fact of the matter is, these words, these ideologies, mean different things to different people. So you say socialism to one person, they may think, oh, communism. You say socialism to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she thinks democratic socialism. She thinks nobody should be too poor to live. It's a very simple message. We should be looking after the people that need help the most. We should be guaranteeing healthcare to everyone. We should be guaranteeing education to everyone. This is a very simple concept. Economic justice, racial justice. This is just equality. And when you sell it like that, the word socialist, the scary aspect that some people may have when they hear socialism begins to go away because it's getting this mainstream spotlight, and by a brilliant person like Ocasio-Cortez, who can break down these ideas in a very simple and digestible way. Now, the other part here is where she talks about how the future of the Democratic Party is working class, and I couldn't agree more. So I do find it kind of interesting that she sort of moves away from aligning herself completely with Bernie Sanders and saying that Bernie Sanders is the future of the party. But I think that is a smart strategic move, because a lot of people out there, especially in the View audience, were Hillary supporters. So if she goes out there and says, the future of the party is Bernie Sanders, you're going to immediately turn off a lot of those Hillary supporters in that audience. But if you say, no, the future of the party is working class, and yes, there are politicians out there like Bernie Sanders who is representing that, then that is a lot more digestible to that Hillary audience than it would be otherwise. Now, let me show you the last clip here where she really gives the best answer on how to fight Donald Trump and the GOP.
And people are so excited right now on the heels of your win because there is a hopeful, aspirational message you have. But there have been a lot of Trump wins this week. He got his travel ban. SCOTUS dealt a blow to the unions. We have the retirement of Justice Kennedy. What power do Democrats have right now?
Yeah. What I like to kind of think about is power in a much broader sense, instead of just who the incumbents in the party are and what they are capable of. I come from the background as an educator and as an organizer. So I believe that our power as a party is in organizing people, a mass movement of people. And when we organize people, when we win hearts and minds, then we impact what happens in those chambers. And that's, I think, where our power can really come from.
Wow. Thanks to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
That was a better answer than you're going to get from any Democrat. The way to really push back on Trump and the GOP is through movements. She's exactly right. So when you look at polling, the vast majority of Americans support Medicare for all. They support higher taxes on the rich and multinational corporations. They support tuition-free college. They support the majority of these progressive ideas, these progressive policies. But people don't know that. But when you focus on the policies and focus on, the best way to defeat Trump, because we don't have the power right now, is through protest, is through movements, is through mobilizing people and informing people on these policies and the way to move forward. That works. And it begins to turn the conversation, and it begins to get people who were not on board before now on board with your message, because they see your movement and they see it beginning to be effective. So when you beat somebody like Joe Crowley, who was so powerful in the Democratic Party, it shows you there is real power and movement behind your message. And when people see this and understand that the way forward is through this movement, it's going to continue growing. So after her win, the DSA already grew to a larger number than it was before. So the DSA continues to grow. Support behind progressive groups like Justice Democrats continues to grow. Support behind groups like Brand New Congress continues to grow. So there are all these progressive groups out there that are now getting more exposure because of a massive win from Ocasio-Cortez. And her ability to be able to communicate that so well and do it effectively on shows like The View is a huge asset for the progressive movement, and really is going to begin to wake people up.